Hello and welcome back to the Bright Light Wellness YouTube channel, plus the Healing with Homeopathy Substack. I am really excited to chat with you today about another amazing acute first aid homeopathic remedy that is a must-have to have in your home. Scroll back onto my Substack or my YouTube, wherever you're tuning in, to just double check that you have listened to my video on calendula and also on hypericum, which are two other amazing first aid homeopathic remedies that I highly recommend having in your home. Calendula is particularly for wound healing and, kind of like a homeopathic antibacterial, antiviral, antibiotic. I don't really believe in viruses and things like that. However, this will stop you from having any further complications with an injury. Keep it clean and keep it healthy from getting things in it that don't belong. Let's go that way. And then another remedy that I've also talked about was hypericum. I could have used a dose of hypericum or arnica, which we're going to talk about today because I actually fell down the stairs yesterday. And if I would have hit my tailbone, I would have probably, and it was really painful and I had nerve pain, I would have given hypericum to myself and used to support that, because we don't want these physical injuries to create like what I call energetic blocks or energetic knots in our like the way our cells communicate. So thankfully I was okay, but I did take a good fall down the stairs, and I thought of hypericum, and then but what really happened is I fell like on my left butt cheek and pretty hard, and more or less I probably gonna have some intense bruising there. So not a hypericum situation, but check out the video I did on hypericum as well, because that is a other great first aid remedy homeopathically. And I'm kind of doing this series on clutch homeopathic remedies that you want to have in your home. And calendula, hypericum, and arnica are three of the main homeopathic remedies that you want to have in your home for first aid care. They are monumental. And these remedies are needed in emergency situations, so you have to have them. Like, you have to purchase them in advance, you have to have them in your home. I carry them with me when I go on trips on our RV, because you never know what my boys are going to get into, right? So I just like to be prepared. Now, a lot of time we're going to talk about arnica today, and I want to remind you, sorry, I'm moving my screen. I want to remind you that right now I'm posting these videos on YouTube, and I'm posting these videos also on my Substack, and eventually I'm going to be doing deeper dives into different remedies and different things about homeopathy on my Substack, Healing with Homeopathy, which will be just exclusive content for paid subscribers. Working on building that up, working on making more content for you guys before we get to that point, but I want to just make you aware of that. That's where the trajectory of this is going, because I really want to create a community there where you can talk with me and you can ask me questions and you can, interact with me and all the things, right, to really help you understand the depth of this ancient wisdom of homeopathy and really help you understand, how to use this medicine in your home. So again, watch the videos on calendula and hypericum if you've missed those, if you don't know about those remedies. And today we're going to talk about arnica. And the reason why I was like, oh, I have to talk about arnica is because I fell down the stairs. And I'm like, oh, I talked about hypericum, how it's great for nerve injuries and injuries to the tailbones and to the fingers and the toes, right? But arnica is a great first aid remedy for bruising. Now, I don't recommend using arnica for every little bump and bruise, honestly. But if the injury that I fell on the stairs was pretty significant, I would have taken it. I just, my body is really strong and resilient, and it's very good at healing. So I'm like, I think I'm good. I don't really need a remedy. I felt confident in that. But if my pain was bad and I felt really bruised and I felt really sore and injured, I might have taken a 30C or 200C of arnica to help aid in that. Now, arnica is made from a flower. So hypericum is also, these are all plants. Hypericum is made from St. John's wort. Calendula is made from, oh, I'm blanking on it. It's a flower, marigold flower. And arnica is also plant as well. So we're going to talk about Arnica today. I always have books with me because it's always good to have more information when I'm sharing. Books are like my best friend because we can't keep everything in our brains, right? But anyway, yeah, that's the name. It's the mountain daisy. That's right. Or the leopard's bane, a mountain tobacco. So those are really good ones. Anyway, Arnica is a great remedy for any kind of accidents, okay? Or bruising, okay? But also kind of any shock or collapse, or also like really important injury, really important for head injuries. You know, a lot of times people have these, like, we get in these patterns of repeated injuries to ourselves. So like one time, this was in clinic, a clinic case that I witnessed, and the woman like repeatedly had head injuries, like over and over and over again. I actually had a client that was similar to this, not as intense. This other woman in the clinic must have had like 15 to 20 head injuries. The client I had recently, who I had given Arnica to, she had probably like 3 or 4 head injury incidences. But this is like a repeating pattern in the system. Everything is always a repeating pattern in a cycle in nature and within us as well. And this is actually a very syphilitic tendency. We will go into miasms eventually in my teachings, but not even close to yet. We're going to just start nice low and slow here, but it is a miasmatic tendency of the syphilitic miasm, where people have a tendency to have head injuries or have these like accident prone type injuries. I am the type of person who does a lot of, I had a lot of falls in my life. Like I would fall down the stairs many times. I actually stopped wearing socks in my household because I would fall down the stairs too many times. But this hasn't happened in years. And then all of a sudden here it was back. I was like, that's kind of interesting. It's like the body, again, everything comes in waves, up and down spirals, repeating patterns to heal again. Okay, I'm going on a tangent about more in-depth things, but let's really just talk about Arnica and what it's used for, because that's the main, idea of this video. It's used for injuries and pain. Okay. Shock and trauma, though, also on the mental emotional sphere as well. So you have a car accident, a bad concussion, a bad head injury. My husband fell off of a ladder, broke his clavicle. He went blind. I think of the main 2 remedies I think of was Arnica and aconite, and we wound up giving Arnica because these things can happen, because this is like a shock, a big trauma to the body. And these shocks and traumas, they imprint on our exclusion zone water, and they will create energetic blockages or knots within our energetic flow or communication. And then thus our cells are not quantumly communicating the way they're supposed to because of this shock and trauma that's stuck in our system. We need to help the body move through it, and Arnica is a great way. Now, your body's really strong and capable. It doesn't always need a remedy. So it doesn't need Arnica for every little bump and bruise. Just like I said, I fell down the stairs. I felt I was okay. Tune into your body. Say, do I need this or do I not? My body felt strong enough where it was able to overcome it all on its own right now. It's also really good for like any kind of just this like bruise, aching, soreness that you can have, especially after injury, right? You're going to have that. It's very good for head injury and concussion. So you absolutely want to think of Arnica for that. I've prescribed it many times for concussion. A 200C is going to do a great job. If it's even if the concussion has happened years ago, that can also be a block to healing. And it can actually, Arnica can come in and do the healing work that needed to be done 10, 20 years ago that you didn't give it. So that's a really good reason for Arnica as well. So there might be pain. You don't want to give Arnica if you have a lot of opened wounds. It's really not indicated for that. It's really that's more calendula. But this is where working with a homeopath, if you have some severe injuries, is more beneficial, because we might need calendula, we might need Arnica, we might need calphos, we might need, symphytum, and we're going to have to kind of, know how to rotate these or know how to switch these up. And we already might need Belly's Pernice, which is another remedy I'll go over for first aid care. Okay. A lot of times people who are in an Arnica state will say, I'm fine. There's nothing, they'll sort of get up from the accident or the injury and they're, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. It's okay. Concussions, they can come in and out of concussions, like in and out of consciousness. That's very Arnica as well. So they're in and out of this concussive state. So they're in and out of consciousness. This is another indication for Arnica. but you do want to think of it in head injuries. If you have an intense head injury, it's one to think about. There are other remedies to think about, actually. Hypericum, depression, right, that comes on after head injury. Nat Sulf can actually be a good remedy for depression after head injury as well. So it depends how it manifests. But Arnica is a good first step if you don't know what to do. So yeah, injuries is really what it's good for. They're better with laying down, keeping the head low. They're worse with motion over exertion in the morning, damp, cold, alcohol, and after sleep. It's a good choice if there's some sort of injury or accident, physical injuries. It's really good for pain relief. A lot of people have heard of Arnica. They use it for pain relief. There's a lot of Arnica creams out there. Try to get Arnica creams that are single ingredients if you can, or Arnica gels that are single ingredients. I recommend those as well. It's good for bruising, good for head injuries, sprains, just overexertion in general. It's good for post-surgery as well. So post-labor, dental procedures, helps heal up the speeding process. You don't want to give it if there's a lot of bleeding, though. This is like a common misconception about Arnica. You don't want to give Arnica if there's a lot of intense bleeding. You want to give maybe calendula at that time. And when the bleeding subsides, then maybe we would go to Arnica. But if you're having like post-birth pain, post C-section pain, which Belly's Pernice could be a more deeper acting remedy for that. All of those things. It could be a good remedy. It is a good remedy for stroke and heart attack as well. Like blood clots or stroke, it's a very good remedy for that. I talk about this more in my acute homeopathy course, and what the potencies to give for this is, but it is the main remedy for strokes. And it will help, the Arnica will help absorb that blood back into where it needs to go. So we'll clear all that for you up. Of course, you want to seek, in intense situations like this, we can't just rely on homeopathy because this is life or death. Like, you need to also seek medical care, right? But it can help that situation, but you're going to have to prescribe pretty high in that case. You're talking, these are not prescriptions that I give without speaking to somebody, but you would need a higher potencies, and I'll do a video on potencies. But these intense situations, like intense concussions, intense, a heart attack situation, which there's many remedies for heart attack, but stroke situation, they need a high potency to make traction because this is an intense situation. So the intenser the situation, the higher, the potency we're going to need. And then you're going to take that potency on the way to the hospital because it's going to help the healing, but you also need to be, with medical care, because we don't want you to die because you're relying on homeopathy. Even though it's strong, powerful medicine, we have to consider, sorry if you hear my dog barking, you also need to consider, that we need modern medicine has its place. Okay. And yeah, so those were the things I want to say. They can be very, feel like a bruise, sore sensation and be very sensitive to touch. Now, Arnica can be very sensitive to touch years and years later after the injury. So the injury might have happened years and years and years ago, and they still might be like sore and sensitive to pressure and touch. Like, they might still feel this bruising sensation in their body, like as if their body has been beaten. Everything feels too hard. Even like the pillow of the bed feels too hard, right? So these are like the chronic, like that's like a first aid Arnica situation, but like in the chronic Arnica, they're going to have this chronic feeling of the bed feels too hard and everything feels too hard. They have a lot of bruised feelings in their body. You know, sorry. Um, they're going to have like long-term consequences since this trauma that they've experienced. So they're never well since head injury. They're never well since falling. They're never well since this car accident. They're never well since this TV fell on their head. Something happened and they've never been well since. You need to think of Arnica. They send the doctor away. They're not interested in the doctor. They're fine. I'm fine is another one. They can be irritable and adverse to company in the chronic case, especially with pain. They are, well, this will help promote rapid healing of pain. They're worse from exertion. Like I said, the bruise feeling. They can be restless in bed. They can't find a comfortable position because they have this bruise feeling. Worse from like a jar or being touched. They don't like being touched. Arnica is, how do I say this delicately? They are worse from penetration. So even in that area as a woman, they will have, they'll be closed. They do not want to be touched in that area. And that could be even in a gynecological exam. They don't want to be touched. They the Arnica doesn't want to be penetrated in a chronic situation. Don't penetrate them in any way. Really on the emotional level, everything's fine, right? Don't penetrate me, I'm fine. Don't penetrate me in that way as well, on that sphere. And it could be in a gynecological exam, it could be in a sexual, way. Don't penetrate me, I'm fine, I'm closed, I'm shut down in a lot of ways due to a trauma that's caused this. They don't like damp or cold weather. They can have a hot head and a cold body, especially in fevers. Um, and they can also have this like reoccurring fever or malaria as well. Like it could be not malaria, could be a situation for them as well. And they could have like putrid, rotten odors, whether that's stool or smells. Like it can be really bad. Again, great for concussions. We talked about that. Blunt trauma to the eyes. So some sort of trauma to the eyes. Arnica is really great. Ledum's another great remedy for this as well. We'll talk about ledum. You're making me think of, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking of the other remedies that I want to make sure that I touch on, which was ledum and bellies for sure as first aid. We'll also talk about apis, and I'll think if I thought of any other ones while going through this. But yeah, that's another good one. It's good for after dental procedures, especially for pain, or even if there's some bleeding, but you just don't want, if it's like extreme gushing bleeding, you might want to think of calendula first. They can have epistaxis or nose bleeds while washing the face or coughing or from trauma. So nosebleeds since trauma could be a thing. Hot head, cold body. Again, that's a lot of some other remedies have this, like arsenica malum, which is another great first aid remedy, which I just had to use very for myself, and I'll explain why. They can have offensive breath. And here it is, loss of sight after head injury, or trauma, which is exactly what happened to my husband. He lost sight after falling. So that's another indication for it. It's also good for meningitis, strokes. So there's lots of indications for arnica. It's excellent for a remedy for labor, especially when the woman feels like they just can't tolerate the pain, they're gonna die. Well, aconite is another good remedy. Oh man, I'm just thinking about remedies to tell you guys today, teach you guys about, and writing them down. But it helps with the sore bruising sensation during labor, and speeds up the dilation of the cervix actually, and really it can help after birth as well, relieve the soreness after the delivery. It's good for like acute sprains. It's also good for bruises, all kinds of things. There are a lot of indications for arnica. In fact, it's actually indicated for symmetrical skin eruptions. So, or eruptions that occur after trauma, spinal issues. There are really so many indications for arnica. But for our purposes and what we're talking about today, I think the best case use for arnica for you guys to know is to use it. If you know somebody who has a concussion, who's going in and out of concussion, somebody's never been well since a head injury, somebody who's prone to a lot of head injuries, somebody who feels like it could be used for bruising, or, in an injury or trauma, it could be used right away. It could be used for labor, during labor, pains, bruise sensation, bruise feeling after labor, delivery. It could be used for that. It could be used for after dental work if there's not excessive bleeding. It could be used for a stroke in a high potency. I'll do a video on potencies. I'll write that down also. I think I mentioned that last time. So yeah, that's where I think that it's good to use arnica for. Oh, I want to talk about symphytum and bryonia also, and roost tox. Look at all these remedies I am excited to share with you guys. I could talk about homeopathy day and night. It's so fun for me. All right, so I hope this brings you a little bit of clarity about arnica and why you would want to use it. And I hope that it's helpful and supportive to you. It's a great first aid remedy to have on hand. 30C, minor situations, 200C, medium situations, I would say. It's a great medium potency. I don't typically recommend self-prescribing 1 Ms or 10 Ms all on your own unless you know what you're doing and unless you're absolutely sure that the remedy is indicated. But in a case of a stroke, that's where I would go, even after the stroke, to help the healing process. And in a case of intense pain or intense situations, that's how high I would go, but we wouldn't be repeating these remedies. A 30C you can repeat, a 200C or 1 M, 10 M you should not really be repeating. It will continue to act as long as it's not antidoted, which is another really great video to talk about. So we will do antidotes eventually as well. So I hope that's helpful to you, supportive. Let me know your questions. You have 3 really good homeopathic first aid remedies under your belt: calendula, wounds, open wounds that are bleeding; hypericum, nerve pain, injury to the spine, tailbone, injuries to fingers and toes. There's some other indications for hypericum, but head injury and depression also, or head injury and pain, nerve pain after head injury. And then you also have Arnica, right? Think of it in concussions, think of it in severe bruising, think of it as never well since head injury, think of it in people who have those patterns to continuously have accidents or prone to injury. Think of it in, supporting after surgery, after dental work, those kinds of things as well. It's an after, not before. We don't give before. Homeopathy works like cures like. So you're not going to give Arnica as a preventative, but you can give Arnica afterwards, or Hypericum afterwards, or bellies afterwards, right? These are after. When the person is experiencing the symptoms, then we give the remedies. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go here. Have an incredible rest of your day, and let me know if you have any questions. Please remember to share this video with people who you think it will be supportive to, like, subscribe, all of the things. So yeah, I'll chat with you guys soon. And if you want to learn more, you can always get my first aid homeopathy course. And of course, if you have an intense situation, I'm always here. You can book in a consultation with me, an acute consultation with me, or if you've never been well since a head injury and you're not sure if Arnica is the right remedy, there are other remedies to consider. Then you could book in with me for a consultation as well. My website is brightlightwellnesscoach.com. I am taking new clients. So I will talk with you guys soon. Have a great rest of your day.